Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alex, and tonight I've got a story that'll keep you up all night. This happened a few years back when my sister Jamie and I decided to take a road trip from Chicago to New Orleans. We'd been planning it for months. A 15-hour drive straight through the heart of the Midwest and down into the Deep South. We figured we'd split the driving, hit the road at midnight to dodge traffic, and make it a fun adventure. Little did we know, we were about to stumble into something straight out of a horror movie. So we kicked things off at midnight, leaving the city lights of Chicago behind. I took the first shift behind the wheel, cruising down I-55, with Jamie riding shotgun, scrolling through her phone for creepy podcasts to set the mood. The plan was simple: drive through Illinois, cut through Missouri, and then swing into Arkansas before hitting Louisiana. We had snacks, a killer playlist, and enough coffee to keep us wired. Everything was smooth for the first few hours. Empty highways, starry skies, the works. But around 3 a.m., somewhere in rural Missouri, we needed gas. The tank was running low, and my eyes were starting to feel heavy, so we pulled off at this lonely exit. Exit 13, I think it was. There was a sign for a gas station called Crow's Rest Stop. Sounded quaint enough, right? The place was old school, a flickering neon sign, rusted pumps, and a little convenience store that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. I parked by the pump, and Jamie offered to stretch her legs and grab some snacks inside while I filled up. As I pumped the gas, I watched her walk toward the store. The night was dead quiet. No crickets, no wind, just the hum of the pump. Then I saw it. The glass door swung open on its own before Jamie even got close. She was still a good 10 feet away, hands in her pockets, not even reaching for it. I blinked hard, thinking it was a trick of the light, or maybe I was just tired. I mean, it's 2025. Automatic doors are everywhere, right? I muttered to the attendant, this grizzled old guy in a trucker hat. Hey, nice motion sensors you got there. He didn't say a word, just stared at me with these hollow eyes and smirked, like he knew something I didn't. Creepy, but I brushed it off. Jamie came back with a bag of chips and a couple of energy drinks, tossing me one as she climbed in. You okay? She asked, noticing my weird vibe. I told her about the door opening by itself, half laughing it off. She grinned and said, "Oh, that? Some kid held it for me. Skinny little guy in a hoodie. Didn't even see him till I was right there. Gave me a jump scare, honestly." I frowned. What kid? I didn't see anyone. She shrugged, cracking open her drink. Dunno, maybe he ducked out the side or something. Let's roll. I'll drive now. You look beat. I didn't argue. I was exhausted, and the idea of a random kid popping up at 3 a.m. in the middle of nowhere didn't sit right. I slid into the passenger seat, reclined it, and told her to wake me if anything weird happened. We texted Mom we'd hit a rest stop and might be a bit late. Then I passed out. I don't know how long I slept, maybe an hour or two, but I woke up freezing. The car was like an icebox. Jamie had the heat cranked up, but it wasn't doing a damn thing. What's with the cold? I grumbled, rubbing my arms. She glanced over, her face tense. I don't know, man. It just dropped out of nowhere. I turned off the AC ages ago, thought it was broken or something. We both checked the vents. Nothing but warm air coming out, yet we could see our breath fogging up. I sat up, wide awake now, and that's when I felt it. This prickling on the back of my neck, like someone was watching us. You feel that? I whispered. Jamie nodded, gripping the wheel tighter. Yeah, it's been like this for 20 minutes. I didn't want to freak you out while you were sleeping. We tried to laugh it off. Maybe the car was haunted, haha. But the vibe was off. The highway stretched out endlessly. No other cars in sight, just pitch black fields on either side. Jamie suggested we pull over at the next town to shake it off, maybe grab a motel room for a few hours. I agreed, and we kept driving, eyes peeled for any sign of civilization. About 30 minutes later, we spotted a faded sign for Black Hollow, 5 miles. Never heard of it, but it sounded like a lifeline. The cold didn't let up, though. It got worse. My teeth were chattering, and Jamie's hands were trembling on the wheel. We popped some aspirin from the glove box, thinking maybe we were coming down with something from the exhaustion. But deep down, we both knew it wasn't that. Finally, we rolled into Black Hollow, a tiny speck of a town, all dark except for a single motel with a buzzing vacancy sign. The Raven's Nest Motel. We checked in fast. The clerk was this pale woman who barely looked up from her crossword puzzle. Just slid us a key for room 6 and muttered, "Sleep tight." We crashed hard on the lumpy beds, too tired to care about the musty smell or the flickering light in the bathroom. I woke up to sunlight streaming through the curtains and Jamie shaking me. "Dude, we overslept. It's noon. We've been out for like 10 hours. The motel guy knocked earlier, apparently, saying we'd overstayed our 6-hour slot. We apologized, threw our stuff together, and hit the road again, feeling refreshed but still weirded out by the night before. The drive was normal for a while, sunny, warm, no more creepy cold snaps. We were making good time through Arkansas when Jamie's phone buzzed. It was Mom asking why we hadn't checked in. We texted her from the motel, right? Turns out she never got it. Signal must have dropped. We brushed it off and kept going, chatting about dumb stuff to shake the unease. But then, around dusk, it happened again. The car got frigid. No warning, just bam, like someone flipped a switch. We cranked the heat, popped the last of our aspirin, even pulled over to check the engine. Nothing was wrong. "This is bullshit," Jamie snapped, slamming the hood shut. "What the hell's going on?" I didn't have an answer, but that watch feeling was back, stronger now, like eyes boring into us from the shadows of the trees lining the road. We pushed on, desperate to reach New Orleans. By midnight, we were in Mississippi, maybe an hour from our Airbnb, when Jamie slammed on the brakes. "What the?" I started, but she pointed ahead, her face white as a sheet. There in the middle of the highway stood a kid, a skinny figure in a hoodie, head down, hands in his pockets. He didn't move, just stood there under the headlights. "Is that?" Jamie whispered. I didn't want to say it, but yeah, it looked like the kid she described from the gas station, hundreds of miles back. I honked the horn, but he didn't budge. Cars don't just stop for nothing at midnight, so Jamie edged forward, planning to swerve around him. But as we got closer, he lifted his head, and I swear his eyes were just black pits, no whites, no nothing. We both screamed, and Jamie floored it, tires screeching as we peeled past him. I twisted around to look. He was gone. Not running, not walking, just gone. We didn't talk for the rest of the drive, just white-knuckled it to New Orleans, checking into our rental at 1 a.m. Our cousins were waiting up, cracking beers and ready to party, but we were wrecked. We crashed on the couch, barely explaining why we were so late. The next morning, over coffee and beignets, we told them everything. The gas station, the cold, the kid. Our cousin Mike, who's lived in NOLA his whole life, went quiet. "You said Crow's Rest stop? Exit 13?" he asked. We nodded. He leaned in, voice low. "Locals call that place cursed. Back in the 80s, some kid died there, hit by a trucker who didn't see him in the fog. Story goes, he's been hitching rides ever since, showing up at that station, following people who stopped there. They say he's lonely. Doesn't mean harm, just wants company. But if you see him twice..." He trailed off, letting that hang. Jamie and I stared at each other, remembering those black eyes on the road. Mike's girlfriend Tara chimed in. "My uncle swears he saw him once, back in '95. Said the car got cold as hell too, and he felt watched the whole way home. We didn't know what to say. Later that day, we had the car checked at a shop. No issues with the heat or AC. We even swung by a psychic in the French Quarter. Touristy, sure, but we were desperate. She burned some sage, did a quick reading, and said we'd picked up a restless tag-along. But it was gone now, probably bored of us. Still, she warned us to steer clear of lonely rest stops on back roads. We stayed in New Orleans a week, had a blast, but that trip changed us. On the way back to Chicago, we took a different route, I-65 instead of I-55, and didn't stop anywhere sketchy. No more midnight drives for us. I still think about that kid sometimes. Those empty eyes, the way he just vanished. Was he really just lonely, or was there something darker to it? I don't know, but I'm not itching to find out. So yeah, that's my story, guys. If you're ever driving through Missouri and see a sign for Crow's Rest Stop, keep going. Trust me. This happened back in 2019, way before everything went crazy with the lockdowns. I was living in a small town outside Denver, Colorado. Think quiet streets, endless pines, and not much to do after dark. One night, around 2 a.m., my girlfriend Sarah and I got hit with the munchies. She was craving those gas station taquitos, you know, the ones that sit under the heat lamp forever, and I wasn't about to say no. So we hopped in my beat-up Honda and headed to the only place open that late, the Gas and Sip on Route 40. Buckle up, because this is where it gets weird. The Gas and Sip was your typical roadside joint. Bright fluorescent lights, a buzzing Coke machine out front, and a parking lot that always had a stray cat or two prowling around. It was dead quiet when we pulled in. No cars, no people, just the hum of the neon sign flickering, open 24/7. We figured we'd grab our stuff, maybe eat at one of the little tables by the window, and head home. I parked near the pumps, and we shuffled inside, half asleep but starving. The clerk, this lanky dude with a patchy beard, barely glanced up from his phone as we walked in. Sarah made a beeline for the taquito roller, while I wandered over to the coffee station. The place had this weird layout. 3 small tables by the glass wall facing the lot, a couple of aisles with chips and candy, and the coffee machine tucked in the back corner near the slushy dispensers. So we split up, her by the counter, me across the store. I was debating between a plain black coffee or one of those sugary mocha packets when I felt it, a brush against my shoulder. I turned expecting Sarah messing with me, but no one was there. The aisle was empty. I shook it off. Maybe I'd bumped the shelf or something, and kept picking my coffee. Then it happened again, harder this time, like someone deliberately nudged me. I stepped closer to the machine, annoyed, and that's when I saw her out of the corner of my eye. A woman, tall and thin, gliding past me toward the slushy section. She didn't say anything, just moved silently, her long coat brushing the floor. I couldn't see her face. She had this dark hood up, like something out of a Grim Reaper costume. The store wasn't crowded. Hell, it was just us. So I figured she'd been there before we walked in. Still, it bugged me. That aisle was narrow, sure, but not that narrow. Why'd she have to bump me twice? I grabbed a random coffee packet, mocha, I think, didn't even care anymore, and headed to the hot water dispenser. As I filled my cup, she passed by again, this time lingering at the end of the aisle, just standing there. I could feel her staring, even though I couldn't see her eyes under that hood. It wasn't a casual glance. It was heavy, like she was sizing me up. My skin crawled. I stirred my coffee fast, trying to act normal. But every time I moved, she shifted too, always just out of direct sight. I'm not the confrontational type, but this was getting ridiculous. I muttered under my breath, "Lady, pick a lane," and booked it back to Sarah, who was already at a table, munching on her taquito, and scrolling TikTok. She looked up and grinned. "What's with the face? You look like you saw a ghost." I slid into the seat across from her, keeping my voice low so the woman wouldn't hear. "There's this chick over by the slushies. She keeps bumping into me and staring. It's freaking me out." Sarah raised an eyebrow, mid-bite, and peeked over my shoulder toward the back of the store. Her grin faded. Riley, what chick? There's no one there." I froze. "What do you mean?" She was right there. Tall, hooded coat, creeping around the aisles. Sarah shook her head, pointing toward the glass wall she'd been facing the whole time. "Babe, I've had eyes on the door since we got here. No one's come in or out except us. It's just you, me, and Mr. Beard over there." She nodded at the clerk, who was still glued to his phone. I turned around, scanning the store. The slushy section was empty. No woman, no coat, nothing. My stomach dropped. "Maybe she was here before us," I said, grasping at straws. Sarah wasn't buying it. "We'd have seen her when we walked in. There's no way, and I didn't see anyone while I was grabbing this." She held up her taquito, now looking less appetizing. The clerk finally looked up, probably sensing our vibe, and called out, "You guys good?" I nodded weakly, but my head was spinning. Had I imagined it? No, those bumps were real. That stare was real. I told Sarah we should bounce. "Something's off. I don't want whatever that was following us home." We tossed our half-eaten food, paid quick, and headed out. The parking lot felt colder than it should have. Colorado nights get chilly, sure, but this was different. Like the air itself was pressing down on us. As we walked to the car, I kept glancing back at the gas and sip. That's when I saw her again. Through the glass, standing by the coffee machine where I'd been, hood still up, just watching us. Sarah grabbed my arm. "Riley, what the hell? Are you seeing this?" I nodded, heart pounding. "Yeah, let's go. Now!" We jumped in the car, and I peeled out of there faster than I've ever driven. On the way home, Sarah brought up those urban legends about pag. You know, the idea that spirits latch onto you at places like gas stations and follow you if you don't shake them off. We laughed nervously, trying to rationalize it, but I couldn't stop checking the rearview mirror, half expecting that hooded figure to be sitting in the back seat. We didn't see her again that night, thank God, but it didn't end there. A couple of days later, I had to swing by the gas and sip again, alone this time, just to grab some smokes. It was daytime, broad daylight, so I figured I'd be fine. The same clerk was there, and I don't know what possessed me, but I asked him, "Hey, you ever see a tall woman in a hooded coat hanging around here?" His face went pale, and he set his phone down slow. "You saw her too, huh?" He leaned over the counter, voice low. "Folks around here call her the Shadow Woman. Been showing up for years, since before I started working here. Story goes, she died back in the 90s, right out front. Drunk driver plowed through the lot, pinned her against the wall. They say she doesn't leave, just watches people, bumps into them like she's trying to figure out who they are. Never hurts anyone, but..." He trailed off, scratching his beard. "You're not the first to ask, man. Last guy who saw her said she followed him home. Kept seeing her in his mirrors for weeks." I felt sick. "Mirrors?" He nodded. "Yeah. Check yours lately." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I passed a mirror in our apartment, bathroom, hallway, even the little one by the door, I swore I caught a glimpse of something dark in the corner, just out of focus. Sarah noticed too. She stopped using the big mirror in our bedroom, said it gave her the creeps. We started avoiding the gas and sip after that, driving 20 minutes out of our way to a Safeway instead. But here's the kicker. A week later, I was scrolling through some local forums, digging for more on this Shadow Woman, and found a thread from 2015. Some guy claimed he'd seen her at that exact store. Same description, same hooded coat. He said she'd bumped him too, then showed up in his car's side mirror on the drive home, just staring. His last post was about moving out of state because he couldn't take it anymore. I don't know what she wanted from me. Maybe nothing, maybe just attention. But I'm not taking chances. We've since moved to Boulder, and I haven't seen her again. Still, every time I hit a gas station late at night, I keep my head down and my mirror's covered. So yeah, that's my story, guys. If you're ever near Route 40 and see a gas and sip with a flickering sign, maybe skip the taquitos. Hit that like button if you've had a creepy run-in like this, and drop a comment. I want to hear your stories. Stay safe out there. This happened back in 2020 when I was still in college in Austin, Texas. I was a junior at UT, living off campus in this cramped apartment with too many roommates and not enough fridge space. One day around 4 p.m., I was starving after a brutal chem lab and decided to hit up the quick stop near campus. It's one of those classic Texas gas station joints. Big, bright, always packed with students grabbing cheap burritos or energy drinks. What started as a quick snack run turned into something I'll never forget. Let's dive in. The quick stop was a 5-minute walk from my place, right off Guadalupe Street. It was your typical college hangout, neon signs, a wall of coolers, and a hot food counter that smelled like grease in heaven. That afternoon it was slammed, students everywhere, lines snaking around the aisles, the AC barely keeping up with the September heat. I grabbed a couple of beef jerky sticks and a soda, but the checkout line was insane, at least 10 people deep. I spotted my buddy Jake, this chill guy from my stats class, near the front of the line. He's the type who's always late to everything, so I figured I'd cash in on his rare punctuality. "Yo, Jake," I called out, waving my stuff. "Can you grab these for me? I'll Venmo you." He grinned, gave me a thumbs up, and took my items. Perfect. I could skip the crowd and wait outside. I stepped out front, leaning against the wall by the entrance, scrolling through my phone. The sun was still high, but there was this weird chill in the air, like a cold front sneaking in. I ignored it, figuring it was just Texas weather being bipolar. Then I felt it, someone watching me. You know that prickly feeling on your neck? I glanced up and saw her across the street. A woman, maybe 30s, standing under a gnarled oak tree. She wasn't sketchy or anything. Clean jeans, a black sweater, dark hair tied back, but she was staring right at me, unblinking. I'm not paranoid, but it was intense, like she was drilling holes into my skull. I shrugged it off. Maybe she was just spacing out, and went back to my phone, checking on Jake's progress through the glass door. He was almost at the cashier. When I looked up again, she was crossing the street, heading straight for me. Her eyes were locked on mine, and she had this faint smile. Nothing friendly, more like she knew something I didn't. I stepped aside, thinking she was just going inside. Maybe I was blocking the door. But she stopped right next to me, close enough that I could smell this faint, earthy scent, like damp leaves or old wood. "Hey," she said, voice low and smooth. I nodded back, awkward as hell, and kept scrolling, hoping she'd move on. She didn't. "You go to school here?" she asked. "Yeah, UT," I mumbled, not looking up. "What's your major?" Engineering." She kept going, asked about my classes, where I was from, even my parents. That's when I got weirded out. "Why do you care?" I snapped, finally meeting her eyes. They were dark, almost black, and way too deep, like staring into a well. She tilted her head, smile widening. "You remind me of someone I used to know. Maybe your folks." That set off alarm bells. Classic scam vibes, right? I gave her a fake name. "Yeah, I'm Dave, cool story," and edged away. She laughed, this soft, creepy chuckle, and reached out, brushing my shoulder with her fingers. "You're a cautious one, Ethan. I like that." My blood ran cold. I hadn't told her my real name. "Leave me alone," I said, stepping back. "I don't want any trouble." She just kept smiling, whispered, "See you around," and walked off down the sidewalk, disappearing around a corner. I stood there, heart racing, trying to figure out how she knew my name. Jake came out right then, tossing me my jerky and soda. "Dude, you okay? You look spooked." I told him about the woman, and he laughed it off. "Probably some weirdo trying to sell you something. Let's bounce." I nodded, but I couldn't shake it. That night I crashed early, around 9 p.m., but woke up at midnight burning up with a fever. My throat was raw, my stomach churning. I barely made it to the bathroom before I started puking. Violent, wrenching heaves that left me dizzy. I thought it was food poisoning, maybe the jerky, but it got worse. By morning I was shaking, sweating through my sheets, too weak to stand. My roommates dragged me to urgent care, where they hooked me up to an IV, dehydration, high fever, the works. The doc couldn't figure it out. No flu, no virus, just some kind of infection. I was out of it for days, stuck in bed, fading in and out. My mom drove down from Dallas to check on me, and she said I was muttering in my sleep, "Stay away, I don't want trouble." Like I was pleading with someone. On day 3, I wasn't improving. Fever still spiking, puking black bile now, which freaked everyone out. My mom, who's big into old school Texas folklore, called her aunt this eccentric lady named Miss June, who lives out in the hill country. June's not a doctor or anything, just one of those backwoods types who knows herbs and remedies. She showed up that night with a satchel of dried plants and a serious look. The second she saw me, she grabbed my face, stared into my eyes and said, "Boy, you've been touched by a whisperer." I was delirious, but I croaked out, "A what?" She sat me up, started burning some sage and explained, "Whisperers, they're old spirits, tied to the land. Look human, talk sweet, but they feed off you if they take a shine to you. One must have latched on, probably that woman you met. She mark you?" I told her about the quick stop, the shoulder touch, the way she knew my name. June nodded grimly. "That's her. She's got her hooks in you, playing with you like a cat with a mouse." She rubbed some foul-smelling oil on my chest, made me drink this bitter tea that tasted like dirt, and chanted something under her breath. I don't know if it was the fever breaking or her magic, but I started feeling better, like a weight lifted off me. By morning, I could sit up, eat, keep it down. Mom got me discharged that day, and June just said, "Stay away from that store, Ethan." She's still out there. I didn't go back to the quick stop for weeks, ordered delivery, begged roommates to grab my stuff. But curiosity got me eventually. One afternoon, I walked by just to see. The place was buzzing as usual, but I swear I saw her, across the street, under that same oak tree, watching me with that damn smile. I bolted. Later, I dug into some local forums. Turns out people have been spotting a weird lady around that quick stop for years. One guy in 2017 said she asked him personal questions, touched his arm, and he got sick for a month. Black bile, fever, everything. He swore she whispered his name in his ear at night, even after he moved away. Another post called her a witch of the plains, some spirit that preys on the living, draining them slow if they cross her path. I'm graduated now, living in Houston, far from Austin. I don't mess with roadside stops anymore. Stick to big box stores with lots of lights and people. But every now and then, I catch that earthy smell, like damp leaves, and I freeze, waiting for her voice to whisper my name again. So that's my story, guys. Ever run into something creepy at a gas station? Drop it in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone. This happened back in 2021, when I was interning at a marketing firm in Phoenix, Arizona. My best friend Mia and I had been tight since high school. We even scored this internship together, working late nights in a dusty office downtown. One evening, after a brutal deadline crunch, we decided to treat ourselves to some junk food. It was around 8 p.m., still hot as hell outside, typical Arizona summer, and the only place open nearby was this Circle K a couple blocks from the office. What started as a chill snack break turned into something straight out of a nightmare. Here's how it went down. The Circle K was your standard desert gas station. Blinding lights, a faded sign, and that faint hum of AC fighting the heat. We'd been there a million times, grabbing Slurpees, nachos, whatever got us through those long work nights. That evening, we shuffled in, sweaty and starving, laughing about some dumb client email. Mia headed for the hot food counter, think taquitos and mini pizzas, while I grabbed us some drinks from the cooler. The store was pretty empty, just a bored cashier flipping through a magazine and a couple of shelves stocked with chips and candy. We decided to eat inside at one of the little tables by the window, those scratched up ones with wobbly legs, since the office break room was a sauna. We plopped down with our haul, pepperoni pizza rolls for Mia, a Coke for me, and started digging in. Mia was mid-story, something about her cat knocking over a plant when she kicked my shin under the table. "Ow, what the hell?" I hissed, rubbing my leg. She didn't say anything, just jerked her head toward the back of the store, near the employee-only door by the restrooms. I followed her gaze and saw him, a guy standing there, half-turned toward us. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, with this sharp jawline and messy dark hair peeking out from under a baseball cap. From that angle, side profile, cap low, he looked exactly like Timothée Chalamet. You know the actor? Mia and I were obsessed after binging Dune that summer. My heart did a little flip. "Holy crap," I whispered. "Is that?" Mia's eyes were huge. "Right? I swear it's him. Or his twin." We started giggling like idiots, kicking each other under the table, trying to play it cool. He was just standing there, hands in his pockets, staring at the wall like he was waiting for something. "Please turn around," Mia muttered, leaning forward so hard she nearly tipped her chair. "What if he's hotter up close, or a total letdown?" I was buzzing, half from exhaustion, half from the thrill of maybe spotting a celeb in a random Circle K. We kept stealing glances, whispering about how we'd totally ask for a selfie if he faced us. But then I noticed something. He wasn't moving, like at all. Not a twitch, not a shift, just frozen there, back half to us. Minutes ticked by, 5, maybe 10, and he still hadn't budged. Mia, being the reckless one, was like, "I'm gonna talk to him. What if it is Timothy?" I grabbed her arm. "No way, dude, we'll look desperate. Just wait, he'll grab something eventually." But he didn't. The cashier didn't even glance his way, like he wasn't there. That's when the vibe shifted. I started feeling off, chilly even with the heat outside, and Mia's grin faded. "Zoe, this is weird," she said, voice low. I nodded, eyes flicking to the big convex mirror hanging above the counter. You know, those security ones that show the whole store. He was right in its line of sight, towering over the aisles, but nothing. No reflection. Just empty space where he should have been. I swallowed hard. "Mia, look at the mirror." She did, and her face went white. Where is he?" Before I could answer, 2 college guys walked through the aisle, chatting loud about some party, and they passed right through him. Not around, not beside. Through like he was smoke. Their voices didn't even falter. They didn't notice a thing. Mia dropped her pizza roll. "Zoe, we're leaving. Now!" We grabbed our stuff, hearts hammering, and bolted for the door. The second we hit the parking lot, this icy wave hit us. Full body chills like stepping into a freezer. "That's why he didn't move," I stammered. Mia was freaking out. "I almost went up to him. What if he turned around and had no face or something?" We speed-walked back to the office, locking the door behind us even though it was just us there. Mia kept pacing, muttering, "That was a ghost, Zoe. A freaking ghost in a Circle K." I tried to calm her down. Maybe it was a trick of the light, exhaustion playing with us. But deep down, I knew she was right. And we didn't sleep that night, just sat there Googling Circle K Ghost Phoenix until dawn. Nothing solid came up, but we found a Reddit thread from 2018. Some guy swore he saw a tall dude with no reflection at that exact location, just standing by the back door. He said it felt like the guy was waiting for someone, and he got chills too when he left. The next day we had to go back. Our boss sent us to grab coffee for a meeting. We dragged our feet, dreading it, but the Circle K looked normal in daylight. Busy, loud, no creepy vibes. Still, we stuck together, eyes on that back corner. He wasn't there, thank God, but the mirror caught my attention again. I watched it while Mia paid. No weird gaps this time, just regular people. We thought we were in the clear, until that night. Back at my apartment, we were crashing on the couch, watching Netflix to shake it off, when Mia screamed. She pointed at the TV screen. During a dark scene, the reflection showed him behind us, cap low, standing still. I whipped around, nothing there. We checked every corner, every mirror in the place. Empty. But that image burned into my brain. For weeks, we kept seeing him. Not full on, just glimpses. In the rearview mirror driving home, in the office bathroom mirror, always that same half profile, never moving. Mia started sleeping with the lights on. I stopped looking at reflective surfaces altogether. Eventually it faded. He stopped showing up, like he got bored or moved on. I asked my grandma about it. She's into old desert legends, and she said Phoenix is full of lost ones. Spirits stuck between worlds, sometimes latching onto places like gas stations where people pass through. "He probably saw you watching him," she said. "They don't like being noticed." We finished that internship and swore off late-night Circle K runs. I'm in LA now. Mia's in Seattle. But we still text about it sometimes. Half laughing, half terrified. So that's my story, guys. Ever seen something in a mirror that shouldn't be there? Drop it in the comments. I need to know I'm not crazy. Smash that like button if this creeped you out, and stay safe out there, especially at gas stations. This happened in the summer of 2022, when I was working a dead-end job in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I just moved there from Kansas City, crashing at a cheap apartment and picking up shifts at a warehouse to pay the bills. One day around noon, I stopped by this little place called the Roadside Mart, a grimy convenience store off E44, for some lunch. It's the kind of spot you'd expect in the Midwest. Dusty pumps, a faded sign, and the best fried chicken you'll ever taste from a heat lamp. What I saw that day still haunts me. Let's get into it. The Roadside Mart was buzzing that afternoon, truckers grabbing coffee, locals buying smokes, the usual. I was inside waiting on a basket of chicken strips and fries, soaking in the greasy smell and the hum of the cooler fans. The sun was blazing outside, beating down on the cracked parking lot, so I figured I'd eat quick and take the rest to go. As I stood by the counter scrolling my phone, I noticed two guys stumble in. Big dudes, maybe mid-20s, with bloodshot eyes and that twitchy vibe like they were on something. They were loud, laughing too hard, shoving each other like they owned the place. I've seen my share of sketchy types, so I kept my head down, hoping they'd grab their stuff and bounce. They didn't. After snagging a couple of beers from the cooler, they headed outside, and that's when things went south. I glanced through the glass door and saw them zero in on this old guy sitting on the curb, an obvious drifter, all tattered clothes and a scruffy beard, nursing a cup of coffee from the store. He wasn't bothering anyone, just minding his own business. But these jerks decided he was their entertainment. One of them, let's call him Red Shirt, dangled a chicken drumstick from their bag, waving it in the old guy's face. "Hungry, huh? Come on, take it." The drifter reached out, slow and shaky, and right as he did, Red Shirt slammed a knee into his jaw. The old man crumpled, coffee spilling everywhere, and they lost it, cackling like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. I froze, food halfway to my mouth, watching this unfold. Another customer, a burly guy in a flannel, stepped out and yelled, "Hey, knock it off!" But the second dude, call him Buzzcut, whipped out a pocket knife, flicking it open with a grin. "Mind your business, hero, or you're next." Flannel backed off, hands up, and I don't blame him. Those two looked unhinged. My gut was screaming that this was about to get worse. Way worse. The drifter was curled up now, taking kicks to the ribs while they taunted him. "Get up, you bum!" And no one else moved. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking, and dialed 911. "Yeah, there's an assault at the roadside mart on I-44. Two guys beating up an old man. They've got a knife. Hurry." The operator said cops were on the way, but it felt like forever. Then it happened. Right as I was describing the scene, Red Shirt doubled over, clutching his stomach, and puked. Not normal puke, black, thick, like tar spilling onto the pavement. I blinked, thinking I'd seen wrong, but then Buzzcut dropped too, gagging and spewing the same stuff. It was unreal, like something out of a horror flick. Their laughs turned to screams, wet and ragged, as they writhed in the mess. I finished the call, stunned, and looked back at the drifter. He was gone. Not limping away, not hiding, just gone. The crowd outside, maybe 5 or 6 people, went dead quiet, staring at the empty spot where he'd been. "Where'd he go?" someone muttered. I stepped out, scanning the lot, the bushes, even behind the dumpster. Nothing. He'd vanished into thin air. The two guys were a wreck now, clawing at their throats, drenched in that black sludge. Sirens wailed in the distance, and by the time the cops rolled up, they were barely moving. An ambulance came quick, and I stuck around, giving my statement, told them everything, even the disappearing drifter, though the officer just scribbled it down with a skeptical look. Word got around later. One of them, Red Shirt, died that night. Doctors said his insides were shredded, like he'd swallowed razors, no explanation how. Buzzcut survived but lost it, screaming in the hospital about the old man's eyes following him, even after they sedated him. They shipped him off to a psych ward, and that was the last I heard. I couldn't let it go, though. That drifter, he didn't just take off. He did something to them. I'd bet my life on it. A week later, I was back at the roadside mart. Couldn't avoid it forever. It's the only spot near work. The cashier, this older lady named Barb, who'd seen me around, caught me staring at the curb where it happened. "You were here that day, huh?" she asked, ringing up my soda. I nodded. "Yeah, that old guy. You ever see him before?" She leaned in, voice low. "Folks call him the Watcher. Been drifting through Tulsa since the 80s, always at spots like this. Gas stations, diners. Story goes, he's some kind of spirit tied to the road. Doesn't talk much, but if you mess with him, well, you saw." I swallowed hard. "What do you mean, spirit?" Barb shrugged, handing me my change. "Old timers say he's vengeance. Picks on bullies, drunks, anyone who crosses him. They don't last long after. Seen it twice myself over the years. Guys like those two, puking black, dropping dead. Always the same." She tapped the counter. "He's been quiet since, though. Guess he got what he wanted." I left, head spinning, and dug into some local lore online that night. Found a blog post from 2014. Some trucker claimed he'd seen an old drifter at that roadside mart, got hassled by a couple of punks, and the next day they were found dead in their rig, covered in black vomit. No sign of the old man after. It's been a couple years now, and I still drive by that roadside mart. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of him, or think I do, sitting on that curb, coffee cup in hand, watching the lot. I don't stop anymore unless I have to, and I sure as hell don't mess with anyone there. Those two got what was coming, no question, but it's the kind of justice that leaves you cold. So that's my story, guys. Ever seen karma hit that hard? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear your takes. Hit that like button if this freaked you out, and stay safe out there, especially at roadside stops. This happened in late 2023 when I was working the night shift at a stop and go in Boise, Idaho. I'd moved there after high school, chasing a quiet life and some cash to save up for college. The stop and go was this rundown gas station on the edge of town. Think flickering lights, a gravel lot, and a vibe that screamed middle of nowhere. I'd been there a few months, slinging coffee and ringing up truckers, when I met her, a woman who changed everything I thought I knew about reality. Buckle up, this one's wild. The stop and go was my gig from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Long hours, dead quiet most nights, just me and the hum of the freezers. I liked it though. Gave me time to scroll TikTok or binge podcasts behind the counter. One night around 1 a.m., the place was empty, and I was restocking the cigarette display when the bell above the door chimed. I glanced up, expecting another bleary-eyed regular, but in walked this woman. She was older, maybe 50s, but striking, like she could have been a model back in the day. Long silver hair, a simple gray coat, and this calm, almost regal air about her. Even as a girl myself, I couldn't help but stare. She had that kind of presence. She nodded at me, soft smile, and started browsing the aisles, slow and deliberate. I went back to my restocking, keeping her in my peripheral. Something about her felt off, but I couldn't place it. Maybe it was how quiet she moved. No squeak of shoes, no rustle of that coat. I shrugged it off. Nights get weird when you're alone too long. Then I caught her reflection in one of the security mirrors. You know, those little round ones bolted to the ceiling? My breath hitched. She was there, clear as day, walking past the chip rack, but her head, it wasn't there. Just a body, coat swaying, no neck, no face, nothing above the shoulders. I blinked hard, thinking it was a glitch or my tired eyes screwing with me. I looked at her directly, head intact, silver hair shining under the lights. Back to the mirror, headless again. My stomach flipped. She turned toward me right then, like she felt my stare, and I dropped my gaze fast, fumbling with a pack of Marlboros. I didn't want her to see the panic on my face. I mean, what do you even say? Hey lady, where's your head? She walked up to the counter, still smiling, and set down a bottle of water. Her voice was smooth, almost too soft. Don't mind what you saw, Harper. I froze. I hadn't told her my name. My tag just said H. What? I stammered, playing dumb. She leaned in slightly, eyes locking mine. Deep green, almost glowing. I know you saw me in the mirror, without my head. It's okay, I'm used to it. My mouth went dry. How'd you? She cut me off, gentle but firm. I see it in your eyes. They dart from me to the glass. You're not the first. I rang her up, hands shaking, barely breathing. How do you know what I saw? I blurted, too freaked to care. She smiled wider, like she was humoring me. Because I've been around a long time. People notice it sometimes. The ones who do, they've got a little spark, something extra. You've got it too. I didn't know what to say. Spark? What the hell? Aren't you scared? I asked, voice barely a whisper. She laughed, this quiet, eerie sound. Why would I be? I'm still here, aren't I? Been seen like this for years. Doesn't mean I'm going anywhere. She slid me $1, took her water, and turned to leave but paused at the door. Take care of yourself, Harper. You're sharper than most. Then she was gone, the bell chiming behind her. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the empty lot through the glass. The rest of my shift was a blur. I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting her headless shape to pop up again. She didn't, but that encounter stuck with me. I didn't tell my co-workers. Jake and Maria would have laughed me off or called me sleep-deprived, but I couldn't shake it. A couple nights later, I was closing up, mopping the floor, counting the till, when I heard it, a soft tap on the window. I looked up, and there she was, standing outside under the awning, same gray coat, same smile. I froze, mop dripping in my hand. She didn't come in, just watched me for a minute, then turned and walked into the dark. The mirror behind me showed her leaving, headless, of course. That's when I started digging. I asked my manager, this grizzled guy named Tom who'd worked there forever, if he'd seen her before. He squinted at me over his coffee. Silver hair, gray coat? Yeah, she comes in sometimes. Been around longer than me. Since the 90s, maybe earlier. Folks call her the headless lady. Old story says she died out back. Car accident, decapitated right in the lot. Been haunting this place ever since. I felt sick. She's a ghost? Tom shrugged. If she is, she's a polite one. Never bothers nobody, just buys her water and goes. You're the first I've heard talk to her, though. I scoured local forums after that, and holy crap, the stories piled up. A cashier from 2015 said she'd seen her in the mirror too. No head, same calm vibe. Another post from 2008 claimed she'd warned a guy to watch himself before he crashed his truck a week later. They all said the same thing. She's harmless, but eerie as hell, and if you see her headless, you've got the sight, some old Idaho superstition about spotting spirits. I don't know if I buy that, but I started noticing stuff after. Shadows in the corner of my eye, whispers when I was alone at the store. She showed up a few more times over the next month, always late, always with that water bottle, always headless in the glass. I'd nod, she'd smile, and that was it, like we had this weird understanding. I quit that job a few weeks ago, moved to Portland for school, but I still think about her. Was she stuck there, tied to that stop and go? Did she mean it about me having a spark? Last shift, I left a note behind the counter. To the headless lady, hope you're okay out there. Dumb, I know, but it felt right. So that's my story, guys. Ever met a ghost who knew your name? Drop it in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone. Smash that like button if this gave you chills, and stay safe out there, especially on the night shift. This happened in early 2024 when I was working at a Quick Mart in a small town outside Raleigh, North Carolina. It was my first job out of high school, just a gig to pay the bills while I figured out what's next. My dad, though, he was my rock growing up. Overprotective, always there, dropping me off at school or work on his old Harley, even when I told him I could handle it myself. Everyone knew him, big guy, leather jacket, always with a grin. But then he got sick, lung cancer, and everything changed. This story's about the night he came back, or at least I think he did. Let's get into it. The Quick Mart was this little hole-in-the-wall spot off Highway 50, faded red sign, a couple pumps, and a gravel lot where truckers parked overnight. I worked the evening shift, 4 p.m. to midnight, and Dad used to swing by all the time. He dropped me off at the start, then picked me up after, waiting out front on his bike, chatting with the regulars or the cashier, Lisa. Even my co-workers got used to him, called him Harley Pop. When he got diagnosed, those rides stopped. He was in and out of the hospital, too weak to even sit up some days. I'd visit him, tell him about work, and he'd just say, "Keep your head up, Case. I'll be back on that bike soon." I wanted to believe him, but deep down I knew. One night, it was late October, rainy as hell. I was stuck at the Quick Mart with no umbrella. Dad always carried one in his jacket pocket, this beat-up black thing he'd pull out like a magician whenever the sky opened up. Without him, I was screwed, staring out at the downpour, dreading the walk home. It was closing time, 11:50 p.m., and I was cashing out the register when Lisa tapped my shoulder. "Hey, Casey, your dad's here." I frowned, confused. "What?" "No way, he's still in the hospital." She smirked like I was slow. "I'm telling you, he's out there. Saw him through the window. Go check." I thought she was messing with me. Lisa loved a good prank, but her face was dead serious. I peered through the glass wall, the one facing the lot where Dad always parked. My heart stopped. There he was, side profile, standing under the awning, wearing that damn leather jacket, hood up against the rain. The Harley was nowhere in sight, but it was him. Same broad shoulders, same way he tilted his head. I couldn't tell if I was relieved or freaked out. He'd been bedridden for weeks. How was he here? Part of me wanted to run out and hug him, but something held me back. The rain was pounding, blurring the glass, and he just stood there, not moving, not waving. "You sure that's him?" I asked Lisa, voice shaky. She nodded. "Who else would it be? Saw the jacket clear as day." I grabbed my bag, hands trembling, and stepped outside to bring him in. Figured he shouldn't be out in that storm, sick as he was. But when I got to the awning, he was gone. No footprints in the gravel, no sound of that Harley roaring off, just the rain and an empty lot. I spun around, searching the shadows, the pumps, even the ditch across the road. Nothing. My stomach twisted. I called back to Lisa. "He's not here, what the hell?" She poked her head out, frowning. "I saw him, Casey, right there, under the light. Maybe he ducked around back?" We waited a few minutes, rain soaking my sneakers, but he didn't show. I called Mom, half panicked. "Is Dad out of the hospital? Did he come here?" Her voice cracked on the other end. "What are you talking about? He's still hooked up to machines. There's no way." I hung up, rain dripping down my face, and just stood there. Lisa swore she'd seen him too. Jacket, hood, everything. We locked up in silence, and I trudged home, soaked and shaken. The next day I asked my boss, Mr. Evans, if the security cams caught anything. He pulled the footage, grainy, black and white, but there it was, a figure under the awning, 11:48 p.m., matching Dad's build. Then right as I'd stepped outside, it flickered and vanished. Like a glitch, no trace. Evans scratched his head. "Weird. Must be the rain messing with the feed." But I knew better. That wasn't a glitch. 3 weeks later, Dad passed. The cancer won, and we buried him on a gray November morning. I didn't tell Mom about that night. Didn't want to make it harder, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was he checking on me? One last time? A month after the funeral, I was back at the Quick Mart, working through the grief, when it happened again. Another rainy night, closing up alone. Lisa had the day off, and I saw him through the glass. Same spot, same jacket, standing still. I didn't go out this time, just watched, tears blurring my eyes until he faded into the dark. The mirror inside caught it too. No reflection, just an empty frame where he should have been. I asked around town after that, old-timers at the diner, the gas station regulars. One guy, a grizzled mechanic named Hank, knew something. "That Quick Mart's got history," he said over his coffee. "Back in the 70s, a biker died out front, hit by a semi in a storm. Folks say he sticks around when it rains, watching out for people he cared about. You're not the first to see a shadow out there." I didn't push it, Didn't need to. It was Dad, I'm sure of it, saying goodbye the only way he could. I quit the Quick Mart a few months ago, moved to Charlotte for a fresh start, but I still drive by sometimes, especially when it rains. I'll catch a glimpse of that jacket under the awning, just for a second, and it's bittersweet. So that's my story, guys. Ever seen a loved one after they're gone? Drop it in the comments. I could use the company. Hit that like button if this hit you in the feels, and stay safe out there, rain or shine. This happened in the fall of 2023, when I was working at a mini-mart in a sleepy suburb outside Seattle, Washington. It was one of those rundown convenience stores, flickering fluorescents, chipped paint, and a vibe that felt stuck in the 90s. I'd been there a couple years, slinging Slurpees and ringing up late-night snackers, when this new guy, Sam, started. He seemed normal at first, but what he saw, what he made me see, changed everything. Let's dive in. The mini-mart was my steady gig, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., 5 days a week. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the rent, and I liked the crew. Tara, the sarcastic manager, and Pete, the chill night shift guy. We just lost a cashier to college, so when Sam showed up, quiet, skinny, always wearing this ratty hoodie, we were happy to have the help. He was a little jumpy from day one, though. You know that twitch you get when something startles you? Sam had it nonstop, flinching at nothing, eyes darting around like he was waiting for a jump scare. I figured it was nerves, new job, new people, but Tara noticed too. "Dude's got a glitch," she'd whisper, smirking. We didn't say anything to him, though, not our place. A week in, it got weirder. Sam would freeze mid-task, stocking chips, sweeping the floor, just staring into space, then jolt like he'd been shocked. Customers started complaining he'd ignore them, lost in his own world. I couldn't ignore it anymore. One slow night around 9 p.m., it was just me and him behind the counter. I nudged him while we were refilling the coffee machine. "Hey man, you good? You're always jumping like a cat on a hot tin roof." I expected him to brush it off, say it's just how he is, but his face went pale. He pulled me aside, voice barely above a whisper. "Jordan, this place is crawling with ghosts." I laughed, couldn't help it. "Ghosts? Come on, dude, it's a mini-mart, not a haunted house." But he wasn't joking. He leaned closer, eyes wide. "I'm serious. They're everywhere. Dozens of them, wandering the aisles. I've got this old charm from my grandma. Lets me see them. Every time I bump one, it's like hitting a wall of cold air." I stopped laughing. He sounded so sure, and that twitch, he wasn't faking it. "What do they look like?" I asked, half curious, half skeptical. "Like corpses," he said. "Pale, sunken faces, just drifting around. They don't talk, don't do anything, just there." I glanced around the store, empty, quiet, same as always. "Only inside?" He nodded. "Yeah, like they're trapped here. I don't know why." I didn't believe him. Not fully, but it stuck with me. "Why don't you ask them what they want?" I pressed. He shook his head fast. "No way, I can barely look at them without freaking out. Don't tell Tara or Pete, okay? They'll think I'm nuts." I promised I wouldn't, mostly because he looked so shaken. After that, I couldn't unsee it. Every flinch, every time he ducked his head, I wondered if he was dodging a ghost I couldn't see. The mini-mart felt different, colder, heavier, like the air was watching me back. A few days later, he stopped showing up. No call, no text, just gone. Tara said his sister came by, muttering about him getting sick, seeing an herbalist or something. The word was he'd had a breakdown, family history of mental stuff, and they were taking him to a shrink. I thought that was it. Sam was just messed up, seeing things that weren't there. But then a week after he bailed, something happened that flipped everything. It was a busy Saturday, cars jammed in the lot, and I was outside moving Pete's bike to free up a spot for this family in a minivan. They piled out, mom, dad, 2 kids, maybe 8 and 10, laughing and arguing about candy. I held the door for them, and as they walked in, the little girl, she had these big blue eyes, stopped dead, staring past me into the store. Her brother grabbed her arm, but she started whimpering, then full-on sobbing, covering her face. "What's wrong, sweetie?" her mom asked, kneeling down. The girl's voice trembled. "Mommy, there's so many dead people in there. They're all gray and scary." The whole store went quiet. Customers, Tara, me, everyone staring. The mom scooped her up fast, shot her husband a look, and they bolted back to the van, peeling out like they'd seen the devil. I stood there, chills crawling up my spine, remembering Sam's words. Dozens of them, wandering. Tara brushed it off. Kids say weird shit, but I couldn't. I started watching closer after that. Late shifts, I'd catch flickers in the corner of my eye. Shapes in the aisles, gone when I turn. The security cam glitched sometimes, showing smudges where no one stood. One night, I swear I felt it. A cold push against my shoulder. Like Sam said, right by the soda cooler. I asked Pete about it. He's been there a decade. He got quiet, then said, "Place used to be a morgue back in the 50s. Closed down after a fire. Rebuilt it as this. Old-timers say it's still holding on to something." I dug online, found a grainy article from '57. Fire at county morgue claims 12, bodies lost. No wonder Sam saw them. I quit a month later. Couldn't handle the weight anymore. Last I heard, they're hiring again. Good luck to whoever's next. So that's my story, guys. Ever worked somewhere that felt off? Drop it in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone. Hit that like button if this creeped you out, and stay safe out there, especially at old gas stations. This happened in the spring of 2024, when I was working at a 7-Eleven in a gritty part of Detroit, Michigan. I'd taken the job to save up for a car. Nothing fancy, just something to get me out of that neighborhood. The store was a 24-hour beacon, bright lights, buzzing coolers, and a revolving door of weirdos. I'd seen my share of oddballs, but nothing prepared me for the night I met him, the guy who told me I was going to die. Let's get into it. The 7-Eleven sat on a corner off Woodward Avenue. Cracked pavement, graffiti on the walls, and a vibe that screamed, "Keep your head down." I worked the graveyard shift, midnight to 8 a.m., and it was usually quiet. Just drunks, insomniacs, and the occasional cop grabbing coffee. I'd been there a few months, used to the routine. Stock shelves, mop floors, dodge the crazies. But I've always had this thing. Ever since I was a kid, I've been spooked by sketchy-looking dudes. One chased me home from the park when I was 9, and that fear stuck, you know? So when this guy walked in one night around 2 a.m., every alarm in my head went off. He was a mess. Tall, hunched, with a face like a burned-out billboard. Half of it was scarred, puckered red skin stretching over his cheek, the other half hidden under greasy black hair. His clothes were rags, stained jacket, torn pants, and he stank like wet trash left in the sun. I was restocking the candy aisle, crouched by the Snickers, when he shuffled up and tapped my shoulder. I flinched hard, dropping a handful of bars. "Hey, can I help you?" I said, standing quick, backing toward the counter. He didn't answer, just followed me, eyes locked on mine, one cloudy, the other too sharp, like it could see through me. "Get out," I snapped, louder now. "You're not supposed to be back here." I was ready to call Jake, the other night guy from the break room, when our security guard, Big Tony, strolled in from his smoke break. But before Tony could grab him, the dude lunged, snatching my wrist with bony fingers. "You're gonna die soon," he hissed, breath hot and sour. Real soon. It's coming for you. I yanked free, heart slamming, as he kept ranting, voice rising. Death's close, kid. Close! Tony hauled him out, kicking and cackling. But even as the door swung shut, he pointed at me through the glass, screaming, You're marked! Look at you! That laugh, it was unhinged like nails on a chalkboard, and his eyes didn't match the sound, cold and dead. I stood there shaking, his words looping in my head. Tony clapped my shoulder. Don't sweat it, Riley. Guy's a nutcase. Probably high. Jake poked his head out, grinning. You okay, man? You look like you saw the Grim Reaper. They teased me all night. Riley's got a death prophecy. But I couldn't laugh it off. That voice stuck with me, echoing even after he was gone. I tried focusing, ringing up customers, counting change, but I was a mess, jumping at every shadow. By 7 a.m., I clocked out, still rattled, and started the walk home. It's just a few blocks across a busy street, and I kept telling myself he was crazy, nothing more. Then it happened. I was crossing at the light, half asleep, when someone shoved me hard from behind. A pickup truck roared past, missing me by inches, horn blaring, tires screeching. I hit the pavement, knees scraping, and looked up to see this older guy in a ball cap, wide-eyed. You okay, kid? You didn't see that coming. I stammered a thanks, adrenaline pumping, and got up, legs like jelly. Close call, he said, patting my back, and walked off. I made it to the curb, heart racing, thinking maybe that creep was right. Death was close. But I brushed it off, kept going, until a motorcycle, some drunk idiot weaving lanes, clipped me as I stepped onto the sidewalk. I went down hard, vision blurring, arms screaming with pain. Through the haze, I saw him, the scarred guy, standing across the street, laughing that same damn laugh, eyes glinting like a demon's. Bystanders pulled me up, called an ambulance. I ended up in the ER, broken arm, bruises, but alive. Mom came quick, freaking out, and we settled with the biker instead of suing. Too much hassle. I told the cops about the guy, but they couldn't find him. No cameras caught his face. No one else saw him after. I was out of work a couple weeks, arm in a sling, replaying that night. Jake swore he'd seen the dude before, called him Burnface or a local drifter who'd pop up at the 7-Eleven, muttering crazy shit. I dug online, found a Detroit forum thread from 2020. Some cashier said a scarred guy predicted his buddy's overdose, right down to the day. Another post called him a death seer, cursed after a fire years back to warn people, or lure them into it. I'm back at the 7-Eleven now. Different shift, days only. I haven't seen him since, but every time a weird customer walks in, I brace myself. Was he warning me or messing with me? I don't know, but I'm damn glad I dodged it, twice. So that's my story, guys. Ever had someone call your fate like that? Drop it in the comments. I need to hear it. Smash that like button if this freaked you out, and stay safe out there, especially crossing the street. This happened back in the winter of 2023, when I was working at a quick stop in a rundown part of Cleveland, Ohio. I'd picked up the gig after dropping out of community college. Just something to keep me afloat while I figured out my next move. The quick stop was a grimy little joint, flickering lights, sticky floors, and a clientele that ranged from tired moms to total weirdos. One night, I met a guy who turned my life upside down with 3 little words. Let's get into it. The quick stop was off a quiet stretch of Euclid Avenue. Cracked asphalt, boarded up shops, and a wind that cut right through you in December. I worked the evening shift, 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., and it was usually uneventful. Stocking shelves, ringing up snacks, dodging the occasional drunk. That night, it was snowing hard, piling up in the lot, and the store was dead. I was behind the counter, half asleep, scrolling X on my phone, when this old guy shuffled in. Let's call him Ray. He was a wreck, hunched over, maybe 70s, with a patchy gray beard and a coat that looked like it had been through a shredder. His hands were trembling, clutching a crumpled dollar bill, and he smelled like wet dog and cheap whiskey. He staggered up to me, voice raspy. "Hey kid, got any smokes back there? I just need one. Been a rough day." I glanced at his dollar, barely enough for a candy bar, let alone a pack. "Sorry, man," I said, not even looking up from my phone. "No cash, no cigs, rules." He stood there, breathing heavy, then leaned in closer. "Come on, just one. I'll owe you. Been out in this damn snow all night." I rolled my eyes. Same sob story I'd heard a dozen times. "Can't do it," I snapped, sharper than I meant. "Buy something or get out. Your call." His face twisted, not angry, but hurt, maybe? "You're a cold one," he muttered, then turned and shuffled out, snow swirling in behind him. I didn't think much of it. Guys like him came and went. But 20 minutes later, he was back, banging on the locked door. I'd flipped the sign to closed early since no one else was dumb enough to come out in that blizzard. "Let me in," he yelled, voice muffled through the glass. "I forgot something." I waved him off through the window. "We're done. Go home." He pressed his face to the glass, eyes wild, and pointed at me. "You'll regret this, boy," he hissed, loud enough to hear. "You'll regret it till you're gone." Then he spat on the ground, turned, and vanished into the storm. I flipped him off through the glass. Big mistake looking back. The next night, I was back at work, still shaking off the chill from walking through that snow. Around 10 p.m., I started feeling off. Dizzy, sweaty, like the flu hit me out of nowhere. I brushed it off, probably just tired, but it got worse. By midnight, my hands were shaking so bad I dropped a stack of change all over the floor. My coworker, Jess, noticed. "Dude, you look like death. Go home." I tried to tough it out, but then I puked. Right behind the counter, this black, tarry mess that stank like rot. Jess freaked, called our boss, and they sent me home early. I crashed hard, thinking it had passed, but it didn't. For days, I was wrecked. Fever, chills, puking that black stuff nonstop. Mom dragged me to urgent care. Doc said it was some viral thing, pumped me with fluids, sent me back. No fix. That's when the nightmares started. Every night I'd see him, old man Ray, standing over me, that scarred face grinning, whispering, "You'll regret it till you're gone." I'd wake up screaming, soaked in sweat, and once I swear I saw him in my bedroom mirror, just a flash before the lights flicked on. A week in, I could barely eat, lost 15 pounds, skin gray, eyes sunken. Mom was terrified, talking about priests, but I didn't buy that stuff. Then Jess called, said she'd seen Ray outside the Quick Stop the night I got sick, just standing in the snow staring at the door. "He didn't come in," she said. "Just, watched. Gave me the creeps." I went back to work after 2 weeks. Still weak, but bills don't wait. First shift back, I asked around about him. The morning guy, Carlos, knew something. "That's Ray," he said, voice low. "Old drifter, used to live around here. Died a few years back. Froze in a storm after some clerk locked him out. Folks say he's pissed. Curses anyone who screws him over. Seen him a couple times myself, just a shadow, but he's real." I felt sick, literally. "Curses?" Carlos nodded. "Yeah, sickness, bad luck. Last guy who pissed him off wrecked his car a month later. Dead on impact." I dug online after that, found a Cleveland news clip from 2019. Homeless man found frozen near Euclid Ave Quick Stop. Picture matched. Same coat, same beard. Forum posts too. People saying Ray's ghost haunts the place, punishes heartless types. I didn't believe in curses, but the timing, the sickness, that face in my dreams, it lined up too perfect. The black puke stopped eventually, but I'm not the same. Always cold now, always tired, like something's draining me slow. I quit the quick stop last month, couldn't take the paranoia, and moved back with Mom. Haven't seen Ray since, but every snowstorm, I hear that raspy voice in the wind. You'll regret it. So that's my story, guys. Ever piss off the wrong person and pay for it? Drop it in the comments. I need to know I'm not cursed alone. Hit that like button if this freaked you out, and stay safe out there, especially in the snow.